You know this feeling when you're just stuck with trying to figure out what you should do in life, whether it's about career or trying to just figure out your next move. You keep thinking about it, going in circles, but you never really get anywhere. I know this so freaking well because I spent over 10 years being trapped in this exact cycle. I often found myself running in circles, going over the same questions, second guessing myself, and just when I thought that I finally figured it out, what I want to do with my life, I come back to the starting point, asking myself, or should I do it this way instead? But I found a way out from that vicious cycle. And here's what changed everything. During this plus 10 years, I discovered a super simple 3E framework that helps me to figure out my life whenever I feel I'm stuck. And in this video, I want to share this simple 3E framework with you too. I promise, this will simplify your life, remove any anxiety you have with decision making, get you unstuck, and help you move forward in your life finally. So let's get into it. You know, the problem is that we're trying to figure it all out all at once beforehand. I used to run like million scenarios in my head, which would go something like this. Okay, so if I become a dentist, I'll earn good money. But if I do that, I won't be really doing what I'm really passionate about, which is fashion design. But if I become a fashion designer, what if I suck at it and I fail and I'll be broke for the rest of my life? No, I don't want to be broke for the rest of my life. I'll go study business then. Or should I rather? If this internal dialogue sounds somewhat familiar to you, then here is the thing. We're trying to resolve things inside of our head, but it never works that way because usually we just end up walking in circles. And the longer we let this go on, the longer we're gonna stay stuck. That's why the first E is actually the hardest one, and it's the one that stops most of the people moving forward in their life. It is also why I stayed stuck for years. And the first E is execution. Execution is the only way to figure out your life. You literally have two options: stay stuck or execute, aka move forward. But of course it sounds simple, just execute. But most of the people, like myself as well, have the problem that they don't know what they want to do. They don't know what they should execute on. So here's what might help you. When I went to study in uni, I chose to study business, although what I really wanted to study was fashion design, but I chose business for safety reasons. But still, to this day, years later, I'm thinking, what could have been had I studied fashion? Therefore, my advice to you is to follow your heart. And if following your heart doesn't work for you, then go for something that itches you the most or makes the most sense to you. Because honestly, it's not supposed to be perfect. At this stage of the framework, you're just supposed to collect data. Because the data that you get from real life experiences is what helps you to figure yourself out. Trying to resolve it inside of your head or with journaling isn't effective if you've been stuck with it already more than 2 weeks. Such mental knots you can only open one knot at a time in the art of doing. But okay, let's say you finally got your things together and you're like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to pursue my dreams. And then boom, you aren't. Because the next most common thing that stops people from executing, aka moving forward in their life, myself included, is fear. If you are afraid to make the next move because what if I fail? Then let me ask you this question. What are you more afraid of? To stay stuck, never really progress further in your life, or fail, collect data, and move forward? And now let me reverse this question. How do you rather live your life? Staying comfortable, but knowing that you will be stuck and you won't progress further in life, or you fail, but you know that you will learn from your failing, learn from your experiences, and you will move forward in your life. Like, it's guaranteed. How do you rather live your life? You gotta understand that when you fail, you're still moving forward because you're getting real life experience, which helps you to then make decisions further. In fact, there is no such thing as failing. I've been failing for so many times myself too, and yes, at first I was afraid of it and I felt like a failure. But now that I look back, I'm like, fuck, what blessings these failures actually were. So many valuable lessons, and thank God it didn't work out that way anyways. And thank God I'm not stuck in that same place trying to figure it out in my head because I was too afraid to take action. Which brings me to the third enemy to execution: perfection. Perfection kills taking action, but at the same time, you can never reach perfection without taking action. Perfection is an outcome of of years-long fine-tuning that comes from all the failures and lessons and etc. Once you take action, you quickly realize that perfection shouldn't be the goal in the first place, and it certainly shouldn't be the starting point. For example, in entrepreneurship, content creation, or any other field, you need to evolve all the time in order to stay good in your craft. And the more you learn, the more you realize that there is still so much to learn. So starting perfect isn't really an option. Start now. Look, when you execute, you gain something even more valuable than success, and it's data, aka experience. Which brings me to the second E of this framework, to figure out your life. Here's the thing, you simply cannot figure out your life inside your head. You need practical experience for that. And to gain practical experience, you need to execute. So whenever I'm stuck, I ask myself, what's the simplest next move? Had I never been brave enough to just do it, execute and think later, I'd still be stuck with the same questions, and I definitely would have not progressed further in my life. Yes, I have a business degree that I currently do nothing with, and yes, I'm still thinking of fashion degrees, thinking, what could have been? Maybe I would have launched my own successful brand by now, and I would be living my dream. Yes, to a certain extent, it sucks. But at the same time, if I'm really zooming out and I take a little different perspective, I also understand that I've progressed further in my life. I have a degree, I have developed skills in marketing, business, social media that will still come in handy on my journey so many times yet. And most importantly, I have data to understand myself a little more. So if things don't go as planned, you're still progressing. It's a matter of perspective. In fact, had I not executed, I wouldn't be sitting here in front of you recording this YouTube video right now. I studied business, didn't land a job, started a digital marketing business, failed it, started a YouTube channel. But all that I definitely did not foresee. When I went to business school, I was sure I'll be working a good corporate job. Having a YouTube channel wasn't in my vision like ever. When I started a YouTube channel, I didn't know what I was doing. So my point is that during this messy journey, my vision has become so clear. For a moment, I figured things out. So here's the thing, clarity comes from action, not from thinking. Which brings me to the last E of this framework, to figure out your life. In October 2024, I made a video that went semi-viral on this channel, receiving plus 100k views. In that video, I mentioned that I wanted to start a mentorship program, which wasn't yet ready at that point, so I put up a waitlist. And guess what? So many people signed up. Like, I'm still shocked. But here's the problem. It's February 2025 and I still haven't launched it. Why? Because I started overcomplicating things. I was trying to make it into a whole solid business all at once, whereas what I actually needed to do is to just take the first step to launch the first version as I intended to in the first place, to gain data and then evaluate. So the last E of this framework to figure out your life is evaluate. Whenever I'm stuck with something that I cannot figure it out in my head, I try to push myself to just do it, see how it goes, collect data, and then evaluate. Like, figuring out your life can really be that simple. Let me know in the comments what do you think of this framework and whether you're going to try it, and if you love it or hate it or something else. Of course, this kind of approach to figuring out your life is going to take time. In fact, it's a lifelong project, but that's our problem. We try to figure out our whole life all at once. At least I was like this, trying to see every possible outcome, but also wanting it all quick. But once I realized that building your dream life should be a lifelong project, brick by brick towards the ideal, my life became so much more peaceful, but also enjoyable. The thing is that the journey is not supposed to be perfect. Maybe it's meant that you first work a job you hate to figure out what you really want and what's meaningful to you. But it doesn't mean that if you work now a job that you hate and you've been working it the last 5 or 10 years, that you couldn't change it anymore. Or same thing goes if you picked a degree and you don't like it but you graduated, or you're almost halfway graduated, and then you're like, I don't like this. But it doesn't mean that you have to stick with that degree for the rest of your life. I mean, the society tells us to do that, yes, but we don't have to. We live in a society where we want quick results, quick business, quick money, quick everything. And if in 90 days it's not working out, we quit it. But remember that the true keywords to success are patience and perseverance, even to those most biggest and wildest dreams. For example, you can see it with my YouTube channel. It took me 2 years to start seeing some results on this channel, and yes, I did thought of quitting many times, but had I done that, I would have never seen my first 100k video. You know what they say, the breakthrough is just around the corner, but most of the times we quit just before we get there. Here's the thing. Stop trying to see the full picture before taking action. When we have a certain itch, a certain calling that just doesn't leave us alone after a year or even 20, the sooner you act on that calling, the sooner you're going to move forward in your life. Not every dream is meant to work out, because some of the dreams, if we act on them, are just there to take us closer to the thing that we're actually meant to do. A business school brought me to pursuing digital marketing, which I failed because I wasn't vibing with it after all. But that brought me to starting my YouTube channel, which for now has been amazing and has brought me further in life, such as having a clear vision for what I want to do in my life for now and helping people to pursue their dreams. But if you would have asked me 3 years ago, I could have never imagined of this. And I know I'm not done yet. I know I will still evolve so many times in my life. I'm not going to do what I do now for the rest of my life, because otherwise I will be just stuck in this version of myself and I'd never meet the future versions of myself, right? So let go of the anxiety around making decisions. The version of you now doesn't see the 10 versions of you ahead. So stop trying to pick a thing for the rest of your life now. Instead, allow your curiosity to lead you where you're supposed to go. This is so important because you know what is like the craziest thing ever? When I was a kid and I was in a primary school, we started learning English. And I had such a burning desire. In fact, it wasn't even a desire, it was an internal need to start studying English, to learn English. So I spent a lot of my free time learning it, but I wasn't intellectualizing it like, oh, I need to study it because 15 years later I'll need it. Kids don't do that. Kids don't intellectualize their life choices. Whereas adults are like, oh, I'll become an accountant because it's a great career choice so I can pay my mortgage in the next 30 years. No, kids don't do this. And as a kid, I was learning English out of pure curiosity. I was sitting evenings studying the words, la 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 la, and here I am running a YouTube channel in English 15 years later. So if you have something that you want to do, you have an internal desire for it, but you just can't see the full picture yet, just take the first step. Execute, experience, and evaluate. Now, I spent over 10 years figuring out my purpose, and there is so much I wish I would have known earlier. Therefore, I've collected my most valuable lessons into this one video, and if you want to avoid the same mistakes I made, watch this video next.